That wasn't loud enough. Perfect. What's up, everybody? This is the Console Crusade podcast, where a podcast talks about retro video games. What else we talk about? I was asking you, Nick. I was definitely asking you what else we talk about, because I blanked.
You didn't introduce me.
I didn't, but I was going to get there. I just needed someone to answer me. What do we talk about? We talk about video game news and shit, and today we're talking about a bunch of video games neither of us played this year. Anyway, I'm EJ Olson. This is Nick Durheim. This is a podcast. Let's do it!
Well, thank you. That was a great intro. I'm really proud of that intro. I think that might be our top 10.
Don't you mean Pippin?
We had a good pregnant pause and then some crosstalk, and then we got right into an awkward conversation about it. So I'm gonna gone full circle.
Edit this up, make it sing, make it scream. Gonna be pretty.
Oh, great. So expect this podcast in the new year.
Okay. All right. Anyway, Game Awards coming up. Talk to me. Tell me what the Game Awards are.
If you're familiar with Jeff Keighley, he did the Video Game Awards on Spike TV, and it was kind of a big deal a few years back. But then that all fell apart, so now he just does the Game Awards.
Spike TV, dude.
Dude, Spike TV, hell yeah. But now the Game Awards is just the same exact thing, pretty much. They just have a bunch of people from different gaming outlets like GameSpot, IGN, Kotaku, Polygon, anything you could probably imagine, and they just get a consensus vote on nominations, and then they vote on those nominations for different categories, similar to what you'd get with like the Oscars or the Emmys, Grammys, all that kind of stuff.
But the Game Awards, while being fine for what they are, I think we care more than anybody else really cares. This is more of a big weird ceremony where everyone gets to kind of stroke their ego for a second, but then it's really about game trailers and announcements and new content reveals and all this other crap. Like the awards kind of get shoved out to the side during the actual presentation.
Well, yeah, just like any other award ceremony, it's just a big jerk fest, Everyone's just masturbating furiously. Do you even know what the Academy Awards are? I mean, it's just insider people being like, this is my favorite.
But at least when you watch the awards, it's about the awards and who's winning them.
Well, yeah, same with the Game Awards.
I just feel like last year when I watched, it was like trailers and announcements and commercials, and then one really cool concert from the dude who did the Doom soundtrack. But I don't actually remember anybody getting an award except for maybe Boogie, but I don't know if that was the Game Awards. Yeah, that was Boogie, right?
Boogie was last year.
Yeah, that's the only award I can actually remember. And I sat and watched the entire stream. I remember you were asleep, and I remember messaging you and being like, oh my God, dude. Like, with the guy, what's his name, the composer for Doom?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. He's really great. He's done a lot of stuff, but it was just him and a DJ and a drummer, dude, just going full on gin. I mean, you've seen it since then.
Yeah, it was the drummer from Periphery.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That would have made it so much cooler if I had known that.
Well, I mean, you didn't know that, so it didn't really detract from your feelings about it.
This is true. I remember just messaging you like, Nick, wake the fuck up. Game Awards.
I think they do the whole trailer dump as kind of a reason for the average Joe to check in.
Yeah. Sure,
there's Twitch has kind of gotten a lot bigger over the past few years, but I don't think they have nearly the same exposure as they did when they were on a network. Right. On Spike TV, that actually meant something as far as advertising goes. And with the Oscars, that's the same thing. It's here are the movies that you should watch. Here are the games that you should play. I mean, it's all advertising. Everything is advertising. I don't know if you've recognized that, but that's just the truth of the matter.
Everything. And you hate advertising, Nick, famously so. You don't want to be sold. You don't need to be sold on something, right?
I don't know if I've ever really taken a stance against advertising. I feel like you're putting words in my mouth, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Whenever we talk about movie trailers specifically, or even video game trailers, we talked about it with the Last of Us trailer, about how you think trailers are stupid because they're advertisements.
They're stupid because nobody should be hyped about an advertisement. If anything, I said I don't need to be sold on something more. I don't need to watch a Star Wars trailer to know that I'm going to watch Star Wars.
Fair enough. Well, let's jump into the awards here. We're starting with the cream of the crop, brother. Game of the year.
The Big Bounty.
Yeah, so I'll go through and quickly read what the nominees are, and then let's break down what we want to win, or our personal game of the year, and then what we think is going to probably take it.
Yeah, this is for game of the year, the actual one.
Yeah. So, The nominees for Game of the Year: Breath of the Wild, of course, Super Mario Odyssey, which strikes me as strange, but we'll get there, PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Persona 5, and Horizon Zero Dawn. That's a solid list of games, but I feel like kind of limited here. I feel like we had a couple other really big releases that not seeing any love on here. Did the last South Park game get any Game of the Year buzz when that came out?
Stick of Truth?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I probably got, same as Fractured But Whole, got a nomination for Best RPG, maybe.
Okay. I don't know. It seems weird to me that Super Mario Odyssey is on here, to be honest. I get the hype and it's like Nintendo, and I mean, does it make sense to be one of 5 nominees for like the best game of the year?
I mean, if you got to consider just based on purely by reviews and the people reviewing them being the ones that are nominating the games for these categories, like Super Mario Odyssey got a lot of 10s, has a really high Metacritic score, so it's like universally loved, so it makes a lot of sense that it would be on that list. I
think without a doubt Breath of the Wild will take this. I just find it hard to believe. I think a lot of people have been wondering if Odyssey is going to come in and like cannibalize Zelda's chance of taking the award, and it's going to go to PUBG or something like that. But I think you have issues if you think Super Mario Odyssey is a better game than Breath of the Wild, right? Or am I being a dick about that?
I think it's different types of games for different types of people. Mario's definitely much more approachable. You know, your little brother could play Mario. I don't know if he'd really get that much fun out of Zelda in the same way.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that he did not like Odyssey, thought it was boring, but he spent a lot of time shooting arrows in Breath of the Wild. A lot of time.
Well, I'm sorry your brother's stupid. But
called out. Daniel, if you're listening.
When you eventually listen to this podcast.
Can you imagine him like in 10, 12 years as an adult, like listening back to this and be like, what the hell?
In loving memory of you.
Daniel, the 8-year-old. No, man. No, I mean, hey, I don't blame him. Breath of the Wild is... I had a better time with that anyway.
Yeah, and I agree that I think Breath of the Wild will probably take it, and it's probably my choice for Game of the Year. But it is interesting to see PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, a game that is still in early access, being nominated.
And the fact that it's just a clone of, as far as what I've seen, of sort of a trend of these weird third-person action survival simulators where you just run around killing people. It seems strange to me because in the same vein as like, what was it, H1Z1, and what was the other big one that was big in the news a couple years ago? It's all in the same tier of games, correct? And they're all in early access.
I mean, this is more focused on the battle royale kind of element, the 1 versus 100 kind of aspects, whereas the other survival, the stereotypical Steam survival game that's forever in early access, like Rust or Days Gone, not Days Gone, DayZ,
H1Z1, yeah,
Rust, Ark Survival Evolved, like those are all like the same game. They're all just like Unreal Engine asset flips that you can play forever but not actually accomplish anything. But PUBG, it makes a lot of sense because it kind of captured a cultural zeitgeist, if you will. I mean, the game sold like 30 million copies on Steam. It's broken Dota 2's concurrence records. It's obscene how many people were playing it. But I mean, that doesn't make it the best game of the year, but obviously it captured enough people's attentions and had this like huge following to it, and has a huge following. It hasn't even come out to consoles, but that's going to be coming out in like a couple weeks. It's going to come to Xbox.
One of the things that I was thinking of when going through these nominees and thinking about, because I don't think, I mean, despite PUBG's popularity, there's no way it's a better game than any game on this list. But it's important to the conversation. It's important to the direction video games are headed. It's important to like you said, it's like the zeitgeist.
So it's a cool nod in that regard.
Sure.
I think it deserves it more so than Persona 5 does. Persona 5 seems like a really weird inclusion on this list for Game of the Year.
I think it was sort of a niche experience, despite how, I mean, it sold well. It sold well enough and it had a lot of hype.
Yeah, it did so well.
But again, this is one of those games that every single reviewer played, and it got unanimously praised. So it's kind of like you said with Mario, everyone who's voting on Game of the Year played this game, and it was, one of the best reviewed games of the year and one of the most hyped games of the year.
I don't necessarily think that every person at an outlet played Persona 5. I think there's at least one person who's into JRPGs at each outlet that was totally just at bat for this game. Like, really wanted it to be on Game of the Year lists, and that's why it made it there. But in the end, I don't think it's going to get the kind of support that any of the other games on the list will.
I think it makes the most sense.
PUBG has a better chance of getting Game of the Year than Persona 5 does.
That sounds right to me.
It'll definitely win individual lists as well, but maybe not an industry-wide kind of collaboration like this is.
So I think we're both in agreement that Breath of the Wild is probably going to take it at the awards.
Yes.
But if Mario Odyssey does eat into Breath of the Wild's votes and kind of split the Nintendo vote.
See, I don't think it's a Nintendo vote because you could say that Horizon Zero Dawn and Persona 5 might split the Sony vote.
I don't know. I think if you're looking at it and someone is like, I mean, there's a whole set of people who are going to just vote. Like, oh, Nintendo finally has something on this list. Like, they're going to vote Nintendo. Which one do you vote for? I think a lot of the other three are going to get ignored in a lot of circles. Just completely ignored. No one's going to look at Horizon Zero Dawn and say, oh, that was a better game than Breath of the Wild. Even though it probably was in almost every way. It's just the Nintendo factor. I don't know. I think it'll be Zelda. Of this list, that's definitely my game of the year, but certainly not my favorite game I played this year, but of this list.
Yeah, and like I've said before, I think that Zelda is going to stick around longer as like a marking of just like 2017, you think of Zelda.
Yeah, but I wonder how much of that is just like the media narrative. Like if I had to, honestly, when we talked about this on the last podcast, I still don't really see what aspect of Zelda was revolutionary. How much of that game is going to leak into other games? Like there are a few aspects, but again, it wasn't something that I think Zelda originated or even pioneered. It was just one of the many elements that made that game what it was, and the Zelda skin made everyone freak out over it. So I don't think it's going to change the direction of open world games by any means. But yeah, 2017, you're right. It's, this game loomed for years, and then it, when it finally came out, not only with the unanimous reviews and it being the highest rated game of all time, quote unquote, and then like the Jim Sterling drama giving it a bad review, and it just like the media cycle perpetuated, and we're still talking about it. It's November.
Yeah, exactly.
So take that for what it's worth. Let's move on to best game direction.
What is their spiel on this? Because I don't know exactly what that means based on the title alone.
So the spiel, I don't think is really going to help.
Oh, great.
Anymore.
So game of the Year Part 2.
Right. Awarded to a game studio for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. So it's basically Game of the Year award runner-up, but it's different nominees.
So maybe, it's closer to like Best Director versus Best Picture, except there's two for Nintendo EPD for Mario and Zelda. So.
Right. Game direction awards, the nominees are Wolfenstein 2, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard. Didn't even know that we were on Resident Evil 7 already.
Yeah, dude.
7. God, man. Breath of the Wild again, Mario again, and Horizon Zero Dawn again. What do you think?
This is like a consolation prize. Like, sorry, your game wasn't good enough, but we really liked it anyway.
Right.
So in that respect, I feel like there's a good chance that it could be like given to Wolfenstein or Resident Evil.
Yeah, I wonder if people will look at it that way, or if they'll just look at the other two and give it to one of those as literally a consolation prize. Like, oh, I really love Mario, but Breath of the Wild is better. Oh, I can vote for Mario here as the runner-up.
Or if like Zelda wins, they're like, but Horizon did a lot of really great things too.
Yeah.
One of those things, which I think that's probably more likely, but it's interesting to see Resident Evil and Wolfenstein on this list where I've heard a lot of heaping praise as far as the direction, like the category suggests, but also problems with the game design in general, where, oh, the last third of the game was kind of bad, or, oh, I wish the level design was better, like purely just gameplay related things.
Sure. I honestly don't think Wolfenstein 2 or Resident Evil have a chance in this category. I think that it'll be Horizon Zero Dawn. They'll take this. I mean, dude, giant robot dinosaurs, badass female protagonists, and,
And the DLC just came out.
People are talking about it.
Recency bias.
Exactly.
Resident Evil came out in like January.
Yeah.
And Wolfenstein 2 got drowned out by Assassin's Creed and Mario, so I don't know if enough people played it to get a grasp on it.
Exactly. Although what I've seen from Wolfenstein 2, I mean, it looks just ridiculous. The last one was fun, and people loved it, and this one also reviewed really well. That was a good Tuesday. Was it a Tuesday? Everything dropped. Like, I mean, that
Friday.
Was it a Friday? Okay, albums come out on Tuesdays.
Well, games used to come out primarily on Tuesdays, but it's been more so on Fridays.
Okay. Yeah, Wolfenstein, you're killing Nazis, and there's a I mean, the whole steampunk, alternate universe sort of thing is interesting to me. Alternate universe, alt history, I guess. Whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what wins what, and then especially with the context of a lot of these games are not nominated just once.
Right.
So like in the next category, we've got Wolfenstein again and Horizon Zero Dawn yet again.
We're going to see a lot of the same names. I wonder how many times some of these games will repeat, or if the voters will keep that in mind and you're going to see best game direction. Like, I don't think Mario had a better game. Game direction's so vague. Outstanding creative vision and innovation.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, like, but I mean, if you want to talk strictly based on game design and not world building, but I mean, world building is not the word, but you know what I'm saying when I say that, right?
Like direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
so
literally
vague.
like what a director does in a movie. Like he's not the one doing the cinematography. He's not the one who's writing the script, but he's the one that's putting it all together.
Sure.
So the way everything is put together, I think that's how I would kind of read into it. But at the same time, I've only played 2 of these games in this list because I'm a bad gamer.
I think people are going to make a case for Mario Odyssey, based on the fact, I mean, it's a platformer, it's colorful, it's a return to form for Mario, and it's the first 3D Mario game we've had in how many years? I think this will probably take this category, to be honest.
You've thought that about several games in this category at this point.
I think
one.
I think Mario, now that I'm thinking about it, I would vote Horizon Zero Dawn. Based on what I've played and seen of it, yeah, I'd vote it, but I think Mario's going to take it as kind of a consolation prize. So
yeah, I think it might be between those two because I think Game of the Year is definitely going to be Zelda, and then this is going to be the second place.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Hey man, how cool would it be though? Just after the last 5 years we've endured with the Wii U, which we said on the last pod we were going to talk about this week, we're going to do a little Wii U retrospective, but we'll do that next week, whatever.
A Wii eulogy, as it were.
A Wii eulogy, precisely. It's cool that Nintendo is back here. The Switch is one of the, I think Time's top 10 influential pieces of tech this year, or whatever that list was. And
yeah, I mean, fluff pieces. I mean, you saw similar things with that Adobe thing talking about sought after items for Black Friday, and Switch was on there, but it's not didn't even have a price cut or anything. No bundles that actually saved you money. It's still a hot item.
Yeah, it's crazy how people wanted it and people bought it, and it was available, and they're still available. So that's either, does that mean Nintendo's doing a good job of keeping their production numbers up, or does it mean that it's not as hot as people think and they're still sitting on shelves? I don't know. I like to think that it's Nintendo just being good.
Yeah. That's why I'm putting Nintendo Switch down for Best Narrative.
Best Narrative, man, for outstanding storytelling and narrative development in a game. Okay, I think we both will have a little bit of say here. Okay, so here are the nominees. What Remains of Edith Finch, which I have never heard of. It's a giant sparrow, an Annapurna Interactive published game.
Same guys who did The Unfinished Swan.
I've never heard of this game. I know nothing about this game.
I watched Andrew play Unfinished Swan and What Remains of Edith Finch. I've seen some gameplay stuff from like Giant Bomb. It's a walking sim. Kind of a cool conceit though, where like all walking sims, you're going through a house, but each time you go into a separate room, you play this little vignette of a person and this person's extended family, like family tree, and experience what killed them. But it's kind of like this mix of like horror with, well, not really horror, but it's kind of eerie and then like magical realism. So early on in the game, there's a part where you have this vignette where it's a first person view of you as a little boy, and you're swinging further and further forward, and you're trying to swing all the way around because that's what you do when you're trying to swing. You want to go all the way around the swing set. But then like, I think the kid like flies off and then like hits his head on the ground and dies or something. But it's each time it's just like weird little slice of life moment things that happen to these family members and how they all died and the family's cursed and this house is haunted-ish. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's got a cool art style to it.
So a very narrative-driven game. You think enough people played it?
I think it's got enough cachet with the game's journalist types. I don't know if it takes it over the other games on this list, which I don't think you've even named yet. Do you want to go through the 5 of them yet?
Yeah, let's keep running through. Nier Automata, which you've played. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Mm-hmm. There's another game I haven't played. Wolfenstein 2 again, and Horizon Zero Dawn again. So Nier Automata, I watched a little bit of a playthrough when this game was first getting the hype. And so I don't really know anything about the narrative. I was just watching little bits and pieces from a Let's Play. You've been playing it, and we talked about it a pod or two ago. and you were kind of breaking down how some of the mechanics work. And I guess you haven't played the other games on this list, but how does this game narrative hold up to other games you've played? Do you think this is a worthy inclusion?
Yeah, I think it's got a pretty interesting narrative. It reminds me a lot of sci-fi, cyberpunk anime stuff.
Right.
I don't know. It's not like groundbreaking. It's nothing new or special. But I mean, I don't really think a lot of stories are. So I don't know if that's going to be a knock against it. I mean, I think What Remains of Edith Finch is kind of derivative in certain ways too. Wolfenstein, it's what if Nazis?
Right.
Horizon Zero Dawn is the same thing. It's like, oh, the future and there's robots and what are people and philosophy.
That's doing it a disservice, man.
But I mean, just totally just watered down, right? I mean, I'm just taking everything at face value. I said Wolfenstein is what if Nazis. You're not going to give me shit about that.
That's a game that, from everything I've seen, you aren't getting intimate with these characters. You're just laser facing Nazis.
Well, that's 100% the opposite of what I've heard. Is that people don't like the gameplay. They don't like the laser facing the Nazis. They like the moments they have with the characters that they're interacting with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess I've been talking to the wrong people.
Yeah. So, I mean,
the wrong person, rather. One person I know has played this game.
You have to know the person who's playing it to understand their viewpoint on it. And then Hellblade, I haven't played, but I've heard fairly positive things about what it does with portraying this woman who's going through this Norse hell to retrieve her lover. But she's this like Irish or Gaelic warrior. And just like the motion capture stuff I've seen from it, it's a really like stunning game. Has a really cool visual style to it, and the stuff they do with sound, and they even have like FMV kind of things in there, which is like, well, this is kind of weird, but that kind of enhances the effect they're going for,
right? Which
is this woman who's like schizophrenic or schizotypal, and she's having hallucinations and auditory hallucinations. So I mean, that's kind of it has a lot of interesting bits to it. It's a game I want to rent or check out.
I'll wait for a Steam sale.
Yeah, I think I'd want to play it on PC, but it's also on PS4, and I could probably like rent it that way.
Dude, have you ever rented a video game from a Redbox? Just as an aside here.
I didn't, but I was with Sam when he rented Call of Duty. I think it was Black Ops 3.
Yeah.
And it turned out that it was a Dragon Ball Z DVD.
Huh.
That someone had like scanned the Call of Duty disc and then printed out a piece of paper and glued it on, so that the Redbox would like scan it back in and be like, yeah, you brought the game back.
Oh, God, what a dick.
It wasn't even a real Dragon Ball Z DVD. It was like a burned one.
Oh, really? Like, did he peel the Call of Duty fake ass sticker off, and it was just like a Sharpie on the fucking DVD? Like,
name a CD burning brand. I can't think of any, but it was like that.
Did he pop it in and watch the DVD at least?
Well, he put it on the PS4, and like I remember him noticing that the paper was like, this is like kind of shoddy, but I don't know how Redbox, if they have like good quality prints on their discs or what.
Right.
But he was like, this is kind of crappy, and he put it in the PS4, and then it loaded up a movie, and we're like, what the fuck? So we looked at it, and it was just a Dragon Ball Z burned DVD.
God.
So, like classic like 2005 style.
Oh, you're irritating. I've never rented from a Redbox, but I'm tempted to with something like Star Wars Battlefront, where I don't want to give my $60 or $80 hard-earned dollars, but hey, I'll go rent it for a couple days. You know, I'll spend $3 on it, give it a try.
Yeah, I was thinking about trying out GameFly to get myself some experience with games that I wouldn't necessarily shell out full price for.
I would do GameFly in a heartbeat based on everything I've read. If I had time to play games like I used to.
Right. I was about to say that you don't really have enough time to dedicate to the games you actually own anyway.
Oh, okay. I know we're going off the rails a little bit, but today, actually,
a little bit
right before we got on the phone or on the old Skype, I was in my garage finally unpacking the rest of the boxes when I moved back in June. I moved in June, yeah. My whole collection, all my video games, and I'm going through meticulously and making a keep pile and a sell pile. My keep pile is probably 5% of my collection. 12 years, 13 years of collecting video games and video game paraphernalia and ephemera. Nice. Yeah, it's all going bye-bye. And it's heartbreaking to a degree, but it's just part of growing up and moving on and realizing I don't have time for a lot of this stuff. You know, and I'm going through my boxes and I'm like, so many of these games I haven't played. Well, I haven't completed, but you know, you buy them saying, oh, I really want to play this game. I'll get to it. Well, now I own it. Well, it's like, am I ever going to get to it? You know, in the current year, do you have to own physical copies of your fucking game? I mean, come on. You know, I'm just...
Yeah, just throw away every NES game and SNES game at the very least.
Throw
don't
away.
even sell them. Yeah, don't even throw them. Just like put them in the garbage.
My Super Nintendo collection is going to pay my rent this month. So I am going to not throw them in the trash.
And then you can just hack your SNES Classic and put all the ones you actually want on there.
That is quite the idea. It's something I've considered. But anyway, back to the Game Awards, Best Narrative. I think, Nick, in my not so humble, not so professional opinion, that Horizon Zero Dawn is going to win this because of the reasons I mentioned before. Strong female protagonist that everyone loves and fucking robot dinosaurs. This will probably take it just because it's the biggest game on the list. You know, I don't think tiny games like Edith Finch are going to start creeping up quite yet. You know, not the third category, right?
I mean, I don't know if this is like ordered by billing, like if this is going to be the third to last game shown, but I think there's a fairly good chance that some dark horse contenders could take Best Narrative. I mean, it's just the narrative. I'm sure Horizon's got 6 other nominations further down the list, and I don't know what it's like, what Remains or Hellblade, what other nominations they have. So there's a chance. I mean, if I were one who was voting in the Game Awards, I would try to keep each category fairly distinct, unless it was like, oh yeah, this is a standout winner.
Yeah.
But the games have been so good this year, and the categories are pretty stacked that I would lean more towards a variety than saying, oh, okay, yeah, Zelda wins every single one, right?
I don't know, man. That's kind of, I think, what you end up seeing with awards like this.
You see that when it's like a dry year, but this has been a fantastic year for games.
Not sales-wise. A lot of great games have come out, but not a lot of people buying them.
I don't know. That depends on what your expectations are for sales.
Let's just look at the sequels and look at how they sold comparatively to their predecessors, which are only a year or two old.
I don't know. Assassin's Creed sold really well this year. Call of Duty sold better than Infinite Warfare did last year. Shadow of War, I'm not sure how that did compare to Shadow of Mordor, but that's also different because Mordor came out on Xbox 360 and PS3. So kind of, it splits the vote. Destiny 2 is the best-selling game of the year, and it came out 2 months ago. Ubisoft had great sales with Ghost Recon Wildlands and For Honor, and even continuing sales with Rainbow Six Siege. I don't know, I've heard nothing but good things about for sales this year. Except for like, you know, when Square Enix is like, you know, Final Fantasy 15 didn't sell 30 million copies, so that's a bit of a disappointment. Or Capcom's like, you know, Resident Evil 7 didn't sell 3 times as much as Resident Evil 6, so that's a bit of a disappointment. Which is just like, come on, just have realistic expectations. Y'all sound like idiots.
I'm looking at things like, I'm trying to actually find what I was literally just reading, like last night when I was going to bed. And I mentioned sequels because there was like 4 sequels on the list that came out this year or like late last year that the sales are down, you know, as much as 50%. And it blew me away. I'll find that. We can bring it up at the end of the pod. But, and maybe I was delirious with sleep. Maybe they were talking about specifically physical game sales, but I don't think that was the case. I think they were talking, because I know they brought up Titanfall 2, and I know that game sold like shit. So I'm thinking it was game sales, not physical game sales. But I'll find that. We can bring it up later. But, so what do you think is going to win this category?
For narrative?
Yeah.
I think Wolfenstein will take it.
You think?
Yeah.
Is that just a stab in the dark?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I feel like any one of these, this is a good nomination list. Any of these games I would be okay with winning Best Narrative. Maybe not What Remains, just because I'm biased against walking sims.
Sure.
But everything else in the list, I'm like, yeah, this is really cool.
I definitely agree. But Aloy is my girl, and I'm going Horizon Zero Dawn. But again, any of these could win, and I'm not going to shed a tear over it. Okay, ooh, here we go. This is going to be tough. This is going to be
a good one. I know my pick, but
as do I. Best art direction for outstanding creative and/or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. This is a broad category,
right?
Creative and/or technical achievement in design or animation. That's really broad.
There's definitely one on here that the thing you think about is the art direction, though. So read the contestants, the nominations.
Okay, Destiny 2. Breath of the Wild, Persona 5, Horizon Zero Dawn, and I think the fucking winner, Cuphead.
Yeah, Cuphead. Easy. I mean, you can make a small case for Persona 5 just because it has a lot of style with the way everything is displayed and kind of it looks like an anime, but it doesn't hold a cup up to Cuphead.
Hey, yeah, Cuphead is a game that I've had my eye on for years. I have yet to play it, just based on how hard I heard it was. I knew I don't have time for this game. It's not a game.
You're not good at games either.
I'm not bad at games. I just am not good at them. That's what you said.
Yeah.
I can kill a game like Super Meat Boy. It just takes me a little bit longer than you. You know what I mean? And I like games like that. It's just they're few and far between. Not only the time I have to dedicate to them, but I want to play games for a sense of pride and accomplishment. And I don't mean that ironically or sarcastically, but I want to feel accomplished. But I also want to escape and have fun. And a lot of the times, really difficult games like Super Meat Boy, I really love that game, but I just can't go back to it because it's so frustrating. I'm not having a good time half the time. So it's defeating the purpose of playing the game, I feel like.
Yeah, hard doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be rewarding, but the games I found the most rewarding are the harder games. It just has to feel fair.
Yeah.
And from everything I've heard about Cuphead is that it's a extremely fair game, but if you mess up, you're done. You got to start over. So it could be a game I could be really into, but I'm also not into shooters of that type. I've never been a fan of like Contra or anything along those lines.
Just bullet hell.
The bullet hell kind of. So I would have to try it. It looks really cool. I'd watch a stream, but that's not really a glowing review on my part either.
Right.
So, but it looks fantastic.
Really, truly.
Exceptionally beautiful with that. I can't remember the studio that they're kind of directly aping, but it's like the old 20s and 30s kind of Walt Disney. I think it was Fleischer.
I'm not sure.
That did like the Betty Boop cartoons.
Right.
But it's directly inspired by that.
I think if you want to talk technical achievement, I think Horizon Zero Dawn did a lot of really cool things. It's a gorgeous looking game. It's one of the best looking games on PS4.
Right.
Destiny 2, I don't think it's much of a step up from the first Destiny game, and that came out on the last generation consoles, which had been out for 10 years. So
yeah, I couldn't tell the difference. If you gave me two screenshots, I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, that one's Destiny 2.
No, certainly not. The only differentiating aspect might be the HUD. You know what I mean? Like
Destiny 2 looks better than Destiny, like Splatoon 2 looks better than Splatoon.
Well, I guess it depends on which versions you're comparing. But yeah, it's basically just it's a big DLC pack, right? Destiny
right.
2. I do want to talk about this briefly.
And to be fair, I also think that Breath of the Wild is a great looking game. It's very beautiful. I'm just a sucker for cell shading, though.
I'm also a sucker for cell shading. I love it not only because it holds up better, but there's something a little more fantastic about it. I'm not necessarily jumping into a world of realism to escape, right? I want something fantastic and that can instill in me that sense of wonder again. That's why one of my favorite games ever is Wind Waker. And that's a game that'll always hold up visually.
Right.
Especially now that we have a full HD port of it, or a remake of it, rather. It's always going to look good. Breath of the Wild is always going to look good to a degree in a way that, like, Skyward Sword looks like crap.
Skyward Sword looks good if you play it in a higher resolution.
That's, I think, still up for debate. That game I thought looked like crap when it came out. Was that 2009, 2011?
2011.
Yeah. And I think it looks even worse now. I'm sure higher resolution, it helps, but it's just, it's a gross looking game to me. Breath of the Wild, it was going to hold up, and it was in its own right a beautiful game. But I don't really care for the art direction. I thought a lot of it was very bland and brown in a lot of ways. Like the character models I loved. But the world was very bland to me in a lot of ways. And it was very samey wherever you went.
I thought all the locations had a really cool, distinct kind of variety to them. Like if you're on Death Mountain, you're on Death Mountain. If you're in the Farron Woods, that like jungle setting, everything's got that green kind of, you're into the jungle. I mean, you got rainstorms and everything looks like cohesive. Same with the Zoro domain. All the different locations all have visually distinctive kind of qualifiers to them. Whereas if I look at a screenshot of like Horizon Zero Dawn, I wouldn't be able to, I haven't played that game enough to be able to be like, oh, that's this location, but it's all like samey in a different way.
Again, that's a product of having spent 140 hours in the game, 153 hours or whatever, you know?
Sometimes you get fatigued.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan of looking at Breath of the Wild before it came out when they were doing the E3 tour they did the E3 and then they did, where else did they showcase Breath of the Wild before release? There was another There was another big event that they showcased it.
They showed it more at Game Awards last year.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful looking game in its own right, but I certainly don't want my other games to look like that. Like it's something that worked for Zelda. I don't think it should win this category, but I could see it. I could see it taking it. Honestly, I could see it winning.
I understand the nomination, but I don't think it stands a chance against Cuphead or even Persona 5.
I almost wonder if people are going to look at Cuphead and just say that, oh, it's almost a gimmick. It'd be kind of a cop out almost.
No, there's no chance that's not winning. 100%. I don't know what I would bet, but I would bet something that Cuphead's winning art direction.
I'm rooting for it. Everything I've watched, man, I'm in love with the way that game looks. Okay, let's move on to the next category. This is going to be tough.
Weird. This one has 6 nominations. So there was a tie somewhere.
Oh boy. So best score / music. Okay, this is tough. This is really tough. I think Breath of the Wild score was garbage. No, okay, sorry, forgive me. It wasn't garbage. The songs that are there are as good as anything else in Zelda. But it was the utilization of the soundtrack and the way that it fit into the puzzle piece that was the bigger picture, the greater game. It was not good. It was, I think, terribly utilized. I know we probably disagree on this, but
probably
that was my biggest disappointment in that game. Like when you get the score, right? When the score kicks in a poignant moment, or you're randomly exploring and finally there's some music that kind of pops up, like good moments. It kind of almost made it even sweeter when you did get it. But coming from the rest of the Zelda games in this franchise, that was my biggest disappointment about the game outside of the weapon system.
No, yeah, I don't think it should win either, but I do really like the way the music was utilized in this game, because like you mentioned, it really emphasizes the moments where there is music that it's like, oh, this is different. You kind of get used to just the environmental noises and the barrenness of exploring out in the wild, but like as soon as you're in a town, you get background music. As soon as you're having an enemy encounter, as soon as you're being chased by a guardian and the piano kicks in, you're like, oh god, right? You got a laser pointing at you, and there's a piano just dun, 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 dun. You know, you freak out. Or the first time I saw a dragon, and that like cool little musical note hits, like that stuff is memorable to me more so than, oh, what was the overworld theme in this Zelda game? So I appreciate it for what it did, but I understand your distaste with the starkness of not having music for a majority of your playtime.
Yeah. No, I think when it is there, you know, and even it's funny, I can go back and open that game and you hear some of those sounds, and I have a little bit of nostalgia for it.
Dude, yeah, seriously, me too. Just from the trailer, and when the main theme played the first time, like that was a powerful moment for me. Yeah. Music hits me, man.
Yeah.
That was Game Awards last year too. Well, you should probably list the other games, because you've only mentioned Zelda.
I'm sorry.
You need to list the games first before you start talking about individual ones.
The other nominees: Destiny 2, Cuphead, Nier Automata, Super Mario Odyssey, and Persona 5.
And also, quick aside, there's another category that's best audio design right after this one. So you see a little bit of bleed over and kind of having distinction between which had better music and which had better utilization of that music and other sound elements and audio design.
Right. Ooh. So, as far as score music,
I think Persona 5 is going to win.
I have no context for this. I don't. So, I'm going to take your word for it here. I mean,
I think Persona 5 is going to win. That's a soundtrack that people seek out. That's like a game that people buy the soundtrack for.
Right.
But I think my pick, oh man, it's tough because I really liked the songs in Nier Automata, and I also really, really like the songs in Super Mario Odyssey. Like, I could listen to the Wooded Kingdom track for the rest of my life. That is an all-time Mario like song at this point for me.
Okay.
I have similar feelings for the Luncheon Kingdom with the mandolin playing in the town square, and just the main Mario theme where you're in the Cascade Kingdom. Like, there's just a lot of really cool music in Mario. That's always got great music, but I think Mario Odyssey stands out in a way that it hasn't really stood out since Galaxy.
Okay.
But dude, Nier has some really, really great music. And Nier and Mario both do this thing, which I guess you could classify as audio design more so than music. But Nier, when you're doing the second playthrough and you're doing these hacking mini games, it has the seamless transition from the background music into an 8-bit version of it.
Yeah.
Just like Mario has when you're going flat. Like that stuff, that gets me. That's an easy win for me.
This is tough for me. Destiny 2, I don't think I like the soundtrack more than the first game. They went in a different direction with it. And you notice it right away when you hop in. But it is one of the things that a lot of people really enjoyed about it, and that a lot of reviewers specifically mentioned, was the different composer they brought in and the differences in the score and how it impacted their experience. Well, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it, not at least through my couple hours in the game. I haven't gone back to that game yet, but it's a little more, how do I describe it? It's a little more theatrical in some ways, not only in its sort of the feel, but also its implementation, like where the score kicks in and, at what moments. I almost feel like it's on here by default, right? Like it's here because it kind of has to be big space epic. Like,
yeah, I don't know why it's on there. Whenever I hear anybody talk about Destiny, they never once talk about the music. It's always about how the guns feel or hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it makes it on, how it even made this list, especially when there's 6. So clearly something tied.
Well, like I said,
like I would have to imagine that it was Destiny tied with like Legend of Zelda.
It is one of the things that people mentioned in the reviews for Destiny 2 this time around. The score got brought up a lot.
Minor aside here, both Destiny and Legend of Zelda are nominated for Best Audio Design. So it's like there are 3 games that are on both these lists.
Right.
It's like, you don't need to be on both, but whatever.
I think Cuphead, again, is very interesting. Not only because, it's kind of what's weird to think about video game is a period piece, right? But it's got this 20s aesthetic, and the music's, no different. So I think it's the most unique. It's the most interesting to me. I don't think it'll win.
Yeah, it does have interesting music. Have you ever listened to any of the songs in Cuphead?
Yeah, like I said, I've watched a few different playthroughs, and
that's really cool. Like, I think it's on Spotify, but it's just they hired a jazz band to write a 20s period piece, basically, like you said. That's really interesting. I think that Cuphead has a chance, of coming ahead of like Persona or Nier or even Mario. But I think the 2 that definitely aren't going to win are Destiny 2 and Breath of the Wild.
Definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't be upset. Again, I don't know anything about Persona. If it won, so be it, because I'm not terribly attached to Mario Odyssey. I'm not attached to any of these, so I don't really necessarily care who wins. I think they're all probably... I'll be upset if Breath of the Wild wins, because then it's just like, okay, we've got a bunch of Zelda stans voting here. But Mario, I don't think the music... I didn't listen to it and say, oh, I hate this, but I also didn't think about it once, really, while I played.
You play mostly handheld?
I split about 50-50, but I usually played with sound.
Because I know you don't have the sound on when you play handheld.
Well, if I'm with somebody, I don't. Like at your house, I don't turn the sound on, right, when we're playing together, because I always find that annoying when other people do it. Not always, but so I never do it. But when I'm home alone, yeah, I'll sit in bed. I actually have a pair of headphones sitting next to my bed, so when I play, I can plug them in and not bother my girlfriend. So I usually played with sound, but nothing. I couldn't hum a single song from that game. That's more my fault than the game's fault, probably. But it's honestly, I have fonder memories of 3D World's music. You guys, Nick's bobbing his head right now. He's humming something to himself.
Yeah, dude,
hell yeah,
it gets me. I love the Wooded Kingdom song.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I think, God, what do I think is gonna win? Ooh, I'm gonna go Mario on this. I think Mario's gonna win.
Oh, really?
I think Mario will win. I think I keep saying I think.
It does have great songs. And I don't know if you unlocked it, but once you beat the game, there's like well, actually, you might even get it before, but I think it's after you beat the game. There's a sound test option where you can play any level with any song you want.
Okay. Very cool.
And you unlock different tracks via doing challenges and stuff.
Right. Let's move on then to Best Audio Design.
Yeah, we gotta start making these quicker because we've spent way too long on each of these.
Well, I told you this was going to happen.
Any of them.
I told you this is going to happen and that we should record tomorrow with a little bit extra time. But anyway,
whatever. We can always record part 2 tomorrow and then just smush them together post.
Yeah, we could do 2 episodes this week. Anyway, Best Audio Design, recognizing the best in-game audio and sound design. Okay, Destiny 2, Hellblade, Resident Evil 7, Breath of the Wild, and Super Mario Odyssey. I'm going to kick this off by saying Breath of the Wild should win, hands down.
I think Hellblade's going to win.
Really?
Yeah, because that is a focus of the game, is the sound design. Everybody I've ever heard talk about the game recommends either playing it in surround sound or with headphones on, because that is an integral part of the experience.
Okay.
Whereas Zelda, it's like just a cool thing.
I can't disagree with that because I don't know anything about Hellblade.
Yeah, me either. I mean, that's just, I'm basing my guess on who I think is going to win.
Yeah.
Based purely off of that. Out of all the games on this list I've played, all 2 of them, I would agree with you that Zelda has better audio design than Mario, or more notable audio design. Mario sounds and plays like a Mario game.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild sounds like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I would say Destiny, the sound design is a very underrated aspect of that game, what it does. And,
totally.
You know, it's a sci-fi shooter. Like, the sound design is crucial. But Zelda, because we mentioned how few moments there are with the score, all your time is spent utterly quiet. The world's sounds, you know, carry you through 150 hours of gameplay. And so I think it's even more important. You know, there's no cop out. There's nothing to cover up some of these moments. It's like, it's just you and the world. And it felt, despite it being cel shaded, despite it being a low resolution full of jaggies, despite it, whatever, like, it was so easy to get lost because it felt so real. And I think a lot of that is because of the sound design.
Yeah, it was very immersive in the sound design.
Yeah. So that's my vote, certainly over Odyssey. Obviously, I don't know anything about Hellblade, and even Resident Evil 7, I watched Andrew and I watched my buddy Brendan play it. The sound design, again, that's another crucial element of that game.
Yeah, especially for horror.
So your pick is going to be Hellblade then?
Hellblade, but I also would not be surprised if Breath of the Wild pulled it either.
Yeah. I should be keeping track of our picks here. Maybe I'll do that after the fact so we can do a follow-up pod. I'm going to go with Breath of the Wild on this one. So, all right. Here we go. Best performance awarded to an individual for voiceover acting, motion, and or performance capture.
Kind of an interesting category, I think.
It's really cool because you're actually recognizing the talent behind these games specifically.
Well, it's the talent in front of the games also.
Well, yeah.
Like they don't have a best programmer.
Right.
So it's just kind of it's a weird, like, here's a person that you can actually put a voice or a face to. So it makes a lot of sense, but it's like, I don't know. It's also having you can't be the best performer in a game that nobody likes. So it is still kind of self-serving in it's the reason why you have a lot of the same games in all these categories.
Yeah. I think it's cool just because, you know, for a lot of people, the story and how you navigate that and how you experience that's the most important aspect of a game for a lot of people. The characters, and these are people who brought those characters to life. So we've got Melina Jurgens from Hellblade. She plays Senua in Hellblade. Laura Bailey, who played Nadine Ross in Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. We've got Claudia Black, who played Chloe Fraser from Uncharted. We've got Brian Bloom, who played BJ Blazkowicz. I don't know how to say
Blazkowicz,
that.
Yeah.
In Wolfenstein 2. And Ashley Birch, who played Aloy, my girl.
So I'm assuming you're going Ashley Birch.
Yeah. That's me, just because it's the only game on this list I've played.
Yeah, I was going to ask, you've played Uncharted. You've played the other Uncharted games, though, right?
Yes, sir.
So those characters, you're familiar with the characters at least.
Yes, sir.
So that gives you a somewhat fair assessment. Gives you an idea of what the idea behind those characters is. I mean, you don't have the exact context of the Lost Legacy,
right,
as a DLC / standalone kind of thing.
They are, I want to say they're great. Like, they did their job. Like, they didn't stand out to me. I wasn't like, oh my goodness, that actor was phenomenal, right? I rarely do that in video games.
Right.
I can think of a few times where I've thought to myself, wow, this person is killing. You know, Cade 6 in Destiny. Nathan Fillion, I think, does his voice. Maybe?
Yeah.
Is it Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, it's Nathan Fillion.
I mean, he just is phenomenal in that role. You know, a couple of voices in The Witcher that really stood out to me. It's certainly not Geralt by any means, but...
Well, you didn't like Geralt.
Right. Hey, my name's Geralt. I'm a Witcher.
You're a Witcher-ary.
God, no. Yeah, his performance is like all-time garbage. For a guy who's got hundreds of hours of voiceover lines, it's just terrible.
Yeah, that poor guy. That poor man drank a lot of tea.
Right.
In the booth for that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely going to Ashley Birch for Aloy. And I think that's who's probably going to win because she's probably the biggest character on this list from any of these games.
I'm thinking that it's either going to be Brian Bloom for his performance as BJ or it's going to be Melina Jurgens for her performance as Senua.
Okay.
Mostly because Melina Jurgens has a really cool story behind how she got the role. Like, she is on the team at Ninja Theory. She was, I don't know what her job was, but she was like a filler for the role, like doing like motion capture kind of stuff to like test things. But then they liked her so much that she became Senua. and like the motion capture, it's her. Like if you look at the picture in the Game Awards, the little profile picture, it's her like in her performance capture makeup and everything.
Right.
And that's just a really cool kind of story. They didn't like hire anybody. It was just like, oh, you're Senua. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I always appreciate a story like that.
Brian Bloom, I think for BJ, I think a lot of people have commented on his running commentary and his sense of defeat and lack of purpose and drive as being a really motivating story for the main character to be having.
Okay.
As opposed to your usual kind of quippy main character that you get in a lot of AAA third person action games, you know? So being like a beaten down kind of like, am I doing the right thing kind of character can be refreshing depending on the context.
Right. Let me just kind of go off the rails with this speculation, but based on how liberal the games media, the climate right now, and a lot of these people in that industry, and sort of the SJ dub, the nature of a lot of these people, I would be shocked if the only male on this list got voted despite a performance. Again, I don't know his performance. I haven't seen his performance, but I would be absolutely shocked if you have 4 women nominated and this guy wins, given the people voting.
That is an interesting perspective. I didn't think of it that way. I was thinking you're going to go along the lines of rewarding the character who's killing all the Nazis.
Oh,
because
no.
that also holds merit in the same kind of circle.
Oh, my God.
And then same with Hellblade, where it's a woman dealing with mental illness.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of kind of inclusionary stuff, which I think is, I'm fine with that. It's cool.
Yeah.
But knowing the people who are voting kind of gives you perspective into what's probably going to win. Probably. I don't know.
Well, at least
we won't know till December 6th.
Right. At least what's probably not going to win. Again, I think if this guy wins for Wolfenstein, there are going to be a lot of, it's going to become a controversy. It'll be a 24-hour controversy. Twitter will blow up.
It'll be a Polygon story.
100%.
10 minutes.
100%. They already have it written. They already have it written, dude. Like they have to plug in the winners, right?
Yeah, they have an algorithm that writes it.
Okay, let's move on to Games for Impact. For a thought-provoking game with a profound pro-social meaning or message.
Speaking of SJWs,
right? I don't see any Nazi laser face here. What's going on? Okay.
No, but this is best walking simulator.
Okay. I haven't touched...
Which, that's totally fine. People use it as a pejorative, and I'm kind of dismissive of the game because there's not a lot to them. But for what they're accomplishing, plenty of games journalists like them, so there's a reason why there's a category.
Right.
Last year, it was like Games for Change, and that was when That Dragon Cancer won.
Yeah.
Which is, that's definitely a very personal game. Yeah. I think we even talked about it on a podcast that probably never came out, but
more than likely. Let's see. We got Please Knock on My Door by Laval Games, Night in the Woods, it's Infinite Fall, Life is Strange Before the Storm, that's a Deck 9 Square NX joint. I honestly did not know that Life is Strange had a sequel that came out this year.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. Cool. Bury Me, My Love, that's a Pixel Hunt Figs Art.
100 people made this, I guess.
The hell is that?
Figs, RT, Palladius.
My goodness. What Remains of Edith Finch again, and Hellblade again. I have no context for any of these. I have the first Life is Strange, and you said people use walking simulator as a pejorative, and it's sort of a and you dismiss these games. As someone who enjoys a good story in a video game, something that will captivate me, especially small experiences like walking sims. You're usually 2 hours, you're in, you're out. It's a good experience for $15 or what the hell ever. Last year That Dragon Cancer won, and even though I don't think it was the best game nominated, given the message and the personal nature, like you said, that game made me legitimately cry. I shed a couple of tears, and appreciated what it wanted to tell, despite it being not even a particularly good walking sim. Like you think of games like Firewatch or Life is Strange or whatever. Like it wasn't even particularly good, but the narrative was, and what the game wanted to do is very emotional. And so I appreciate these kind of games. They're not for everybody. So that being said, I don't know what the fuck any of these games are. I don't know who's going to win. I don't know.
I haven't heard anything about Please Knock on My Door or Bury Me, My Love, but I don't think Life is Strange is going to win. Night in the Woods has a fair chance. Hellblade has a pretty good chance. Yeah, I think Hellblade probably is the most likely to win, just based on the amount of people who've played them.
Right.
I don't know who all. I mean, someone played them because they got nominated, clearly. And not to disparage them based on my not hearing of them, but I don't know enough about these games to know what their impact is or what they're trying to accomplish narratively based on like what they're trying to say.
Right.
What the message they're trying to get across. So I think Hellblade, based on purely things I've heard of, is probably going to win. I'm
going to be right there with you. Hellblade. Let's get on to a category that we could talk about for an hour, probably.
Why is this a category?
That's a good question.
Okay, best ongoing game. So best game that might not have come out this year, but two of them did.
Right.
But also, this is a yearly game award show, so why does this category exist? This is the second stupidest category on the list.
The second stupidest. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. So the nominees for this is Warframe, which is basically just a crappier free-to-play Destiny. People who play Warframe would fucking flip if they heard me say that, but no one listens to this podcast actually plays that game. I have played it, mind you. So for context, someone who's sunk hundreds of hours into Destiny, I've also played Warframe.
Yeah, it's made leaps and bounds as far as becoming a better game over the past 3 years also.
Yeah. That was one of the games, I think I downloaded initially on PS4, I want to say.
I played it on PC in like 2013 or 2014.
Yeah.
And it was kind of janky and hard to get into. It didn't have a lot of onboarding, but I had a friend who was really, really into it, so I tried it out and then didn't really catch me. But I kind of got it. I kind of understood what was appealing.
Let's get through these. Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, GTA Online, Destiny 2, and PUBG. So this is a tough category because I would say if you want to talk culturally relevant right now, PUBG is the biggest game on this list. It came out this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's biggest as far as recency, but Grand Theft Auto Online, I think, is probably the biggest as far as pure player count.
Really?
But also, I do not think that anybody who's voting on these games has played Grand Theft Auto Online in the past 3 years.
Right.
So I think PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has the best chance of getting this. Overwatch or Destiny 2 also have good chances. Yeah,
I would say, the best games on this list are Destiny and Overwatch. GTA Online is great for what it is, but again, it's old and why is it on this fucking list? Warframe, like, that's cool that they're getting notice, I guess.
Why is this category on this list?
Right, it doesn't make sense.
If you were asked what the best ongoing games were, I'm sure you would have mentioned Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Based purely on, well, what's something a lot of people play.
Right. Well, my personal vote's going to be Destiny in a heartbeat. Even though I haven't played much of Destiny 2, it's the same fucking game as Destiny 1, essentially, from what I have played. But
yeah, why isn't Destiny on this list? I mean, that's an ongoing game, right?
It's a good point.
Why isn't Final Fantasy 14 on here?
Right? No, dude, PUBG's going to win, right? PUBG's going to take this category?
Yeah, unless it's on another category that it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it.
PUBG. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. This is interesting. Best mobile game. We got Fire Emblem Heroes, Super Mario Run, Old Man's Journey, Monument Valley 2, and Hidden Folks. Having only played 2 of these games, I'm going to cast my vote for Fire Emblem Heroes, but I think Super Mario Run will probably win. What do you think?
I don't know if enough people actually liked Super Mario Run for it to make that. I feel like Monument Valley 2 has a good shot.
It's definitely going to be one of the 2 or the 3 that we have not played, right?
Yeah, most likely. I mean, if Animal Crossing would have come out a little bit sooner, that might have made it.
I'm shocked by how many people are playing that game. People who've never played Animal Crossing and who don't play video games at all, really. It's kind of like an isolated version of Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Go phenomena, where I'm seeing all these people hop on the Animal Crossing train, and that's cool. I mean, that's cool, man. That's to be commended. Fire Emblem Heroes. Well, I barely touched the game. I have some friends who this is all they do when they are not at home is play this fucking game. It's got a pretty niche audience, but the people who play it are hardcore about it because it's a quality game.
Very competently put together.
Yeah.
From what I played, the very minimal I played.
Yeah.
it captured what makes Fire Emblem good on a mobile screen. That's really cool. And that's got the gotcha loot box gambling elements that keeps people spending that sweet cheddar.
Right. It's probably not going to be either of those two. Super Mario Run really was surrounded by some serious controversy between the asking price and the amount of
always
content.
online.
The always on. Yeah, all the different things. I feel like most of it was negative outside of Nintendo voice chat, right? A lot of the press was pretty negative. I think it was a really great game. Like, if we're talking just the game itself, this was a really fucking awesome attempt at a Mario mobile game.
Yeah, it's probably the best one-button Mario game you could possibly come up with.
Yeah, but you have to take everything else into consideration, and that really sullied it in a lot of people's eyes, including my own.
Yeah, the $10 makes it a hard sell.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of these other three. I'm gonna vote Mario Run, but it's gonna be one of these other three that I've never played or heard of.
I'm guessing Monument Valley based purely on the fact that I've heard of it.
Right. All right. Okay, here we go. This is where it gets a little more interesting. Best handheld game.
Okay, so handheld game, it's Metroid.
Without
You
a
don't even
doubt.
have to list the other ones. You don't have to list the other ones.
No, you don't. It's funny. These are all 3DS games.
Well, what other handheld games came out this year?
Well, Nintendo Switch games, those don't count as handheld games. They count as console first.
People aren't counting it. I mean, if they're not going to put it in this year, like, it's not going to ever be a thing. Otherwise, it would just be best Switch game. No one else is making handheld games. If you have a distinction between handheld and mobile, then it's just what's the best Nintendo game.
Right. So the nominees are Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, a half-assed port from the Wii U, Monster Hunter Stories, 10 people played that game, Ever Oasis, 7 people played that game, Fire Emblem Echo Shadow of Valencia, great game, 4 people played it. No, it actually sold pretty well. I mean, it sold relatively well.
Fire Emblem sells pretty well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Poochie and Yoshi did pretty well too.
Did it?
Yeah. And from everything I've heard about Monster Hunter Stories, that's the best Pokemon game that's come out in the past 15 years.
But nobody played it.
So,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And no one talked about it. It kind of came and
I'm sure
went.
plenty of people played it, but nobody wanted to talk about it because it was post-Switch. So 3DS is like, no one wants to talk about 3DS when you have a Switch.
Right. It's definitely Samus Returns. Not only from the surprise announcement in the Treehouse event post E3, but it came out to rave reviews. Despite it being on 3DS, it still has done incredibly well and has sort of, I don't want to say lit a fire under people's asses. People have been clamoring for Metroid forever, but this only reinforced that, hey, Nintendo can still produce quality Metroid shit despite it having been dead for a decade.
Yeah, it's not Federation Force.
Right. Although, you know what? Half of the Nintendo group that we text back and forth, and they've played that game and they really enjoy it. All right.
Well, I can't defend Leaf. I'm sorry.
All right. So Metroid Samus Returns. That's the winner. All right. Best VR AR game. Super Hot VR, Star Trek Bridge Crew, Lone Echo, Echo Arena, Farpoint, and Resident Evil 7.
That's kind of tough. I feel like it's either going to be Super Hot or Resident Evil 7.
Yep. I'm thinking the exact same thing. Super Hot, I actually heard a lot about. This came out a while ago, though. This came out almost a year ago, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe it came out December last year.
Okay. Yeah. So
And Resident Evil came out January this year?
Yeah.
January, February. Yeah, January. So Resident Evil could win based on the merit that it's the full game playable in VR.
right.
So that's like a really cool thing. Super Hot VR, I think, has a chance based on it's a very good VR game. And it's a different version than the regular Super Hot.
Right.
Like they actually made a full experience tailored around the VR. So I think that lends it some credit also.
Super Hot, I think, has a chance, but I'm gonna go Resident Evil 7 again, just because it is the full game. And for a game based on the sort of walking around, stalking around, creepily looking for clues, discovering things, impregnated by those moments of intense action, that game is fucking made for VR. Just when I watched of it, I would be fucking terrified to put a headset on and headphones and have to endure any of what I saw.
Yeah, I hope that when they sell the game, it comes with like a pack of Huggies or something.
Right.
You'll be shitting your pants playing that game.
I'm gonna need some Depends for sure. So I'm going Resident Evil 7 as my personal pick and as my official vote.
I agree.
All right. Best action game. Okay, this is
Oh, jeez.
this is an interesting category.
Well, first off, what the hell's an action game?
Okay, so it says here for the best game in the action genre focused on combat. And so this actually, I think, changes my perspective a little bit.
Okay. Because in prior years, what I've noticed from action game was it was best shooter, but they couldn't say that because it would sound bad.
Oh, really?
But there's 2 other games that you're not shooting, but you're still, well, 1 other game and you're not shooting.
Yeah.
You're stabbing things to death.
So we've got Prey.
Not going to win.
No. Neo. Destiny 2.
Probably not going to win.
Right. Cuphead and Wolfenstein.
I think Wolfenstein takes it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You think that's just a Destiny fatigue, MMO fatigue? I mean, I think Destiny, I mean, this is the best shooter. Like we talked about, Bungie knows how to make a shooter, man. It's flawless in execution.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that Destiny wins, but I think also of the people who played Destiny 2 when it came out, they crashed and burned pretty fast. Whereas Wolfenstein has that recency bias where people are just now getting to it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be on the tip of people's tongues. So I think that gives it a bit of an edge.
When the category, it ends with focus on combat, my eyes immediately darted to the picture of Neo. Despite that having been sort of a niche experience, I know it's really difficult from what I've heard.
It's the best Dark Souls game that came out this year.
Right? I mean, that's a small list, right? But
Well, it's Neo.
Neo, I think, depending on who's voting, the people who played this game love this game.
I just don't think enough people played it.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like I said, a very niche experience. I'm going to vote Destiny 2 as my personal and my official pick, but I wouldn't be shocked if Neo or Wolfenstein took it. That could be a close one.
Yeah, and the focus on action, a lot of people, I mean, it's not the shooting that people don't like in Wolfenstein, it's more the awareness of where you're being shot at and the kind of arbitrary difficulty spikes that happen no matter what difficulty setting you're playing on. It seems like that's some of the big detractors in it. So I think that might also play against it. So you might be totally right in thinking Destiny 2 takes it. So I don't know. I'm kind of split. I think they both have equally good shots. I'll go with Destiny 2 with you.
Okay.
You swayed me. You swayed me, boy.
My man. So it's 10:30 and we probably are running out of time here, and we have still half a list to get through. And this next one I could go all in on. So let's.
Oh yeah, because it's another fake genre salad of mix-up things.
Right. So again, best action adventure game. This is not totally vague. For the best action/adventure game combining combat with traversal and puzzle solving. Okay. We've got Uncharted Lost Legacy, Assassin's Creed Origins, Zelda, Mario, and Horizon once again. This is tough, man. This is tough. And not because these are all equally good games, but I think it's tough because so many of these games have shown up so many times already. It's like, okay, if Zelda wins Game of the Year, then it has to win Best Action Adventure Game, right?
Or explicitly doesn't because it's already Game of the Year. I don't know. It's tough. I want to do like not a Venn diagram, but I want to see which games are nominated for which categories. It'd be kind of interesting to go by a game basis to see. Some of these games probably are going to win more than one category,
right.
Clearly. But if it's the only game in the category, it's the only category they're in, then I think that gives it a slightly better edge.
Okay.
So I haven't seen Assassin's Creed on this list at all.
I think a lot of people would be upset, though, if Assassin's Creed comes in and wins over any of these games. I mean, that is the underdog of this category, I think. Oh, this is really tough, but I'm going to go underdog here. I'm going to say Uncharted. I'm not going to go Assassin's Creed, but I'm going to go Uncharted. I think it's going to come out for that.
Did you play Lost Legacy?
No, I did not play this one.
That would be very interesting if that smaller title kind of swept up and beat out these 4 powerhouses.
By this point, it'll be voter fatigue, well, depending on, I guess, what order people voted in. But I feel like by this point, it's...
I'm assuming they vote all at once.
Well, I know, but it's like if someone's going through and this is the first category they see, they're going to vote for Zelda. 16 categories down, they're probably less inclined to vote for the same thing over and over again. So I feel like if someone got to this as late in the list as we are, Assassin's Creed or Uncharted has a better chance, just like I said, because of voter fatigue.
Or they could be going in reverse order. Who knows? We don't know.
We don't know.
You're assuming an order.
I am. That's why I added that caveat. Anyway, I'm going to go Uncharted on this one.
I'm going Zelda.
Okay. Safe pick.
Because traversal and puzzle solving, that's
right.
That's Zelda.
Right. I think my personal pick for best action adventure game. Oh my god,
it's Mario, right?
No, I'd have to go Zelda. I guess. But I feel like if I put a little more time on Horizon, I might probably vote for Horizon. But
how much time did you spend with Horizon? I saw you holding 3 copies just a minute ago.
Okay, that's a totally different story. I borrowed.
No, I saw your Twitter thread.
Okay, yeah. So
if you all follow Jiggle on social media, you might be blessed with that story.
Yeah,
or he'll block you. Those are the 2 options.
That's it. Yeah. So I spent like 2 or 3 hours with it before I had to go back to the real world. But I had a buddy of mine who sat and played it probably 4 or 5 nights in a row for hours at a time while I worked. And so I peeked over his shoulder, and when he went to the bathroom, I'd go fucking kill a dinosaur and shit. I'm excited to actually get some time with it over the break, I think. Let's move on to Best RPG. And we all know what an RPG is.
This is a stacked list.
Yeah. I just have to read the description because it tickles me. For the best game designed with rich player character customization and progression, including massively multiplayer experiences. Okay. This is tough.
It used to be in the 90s and early 2000s, RPGs were a separate entity, but now every single game is an RPG in some way or another.
Right.
So it's kind of weird that it's even a category still.
It's getting harder and harder to delineate like what constitutes, like you said, it's specifically an RPG, a pure RPG. Because I look at something like Nier, and it's got RPG elements.
I'd say it's mostly RPG. It's like an action RPG. Same with Final Fantasy 15. It's just your method of combat is more action-based than it is a strategy kind of turn-based kind of element.
Is Final Fantasy 15 not a turn-based?
Nope.
Wow.
Totally just open-world action game.
Final Fantasy, that's not a franchise I am or have ever been interested in or involved with in any capacity.
It's a big one. There's at least 15 of them.
At least. My personal pick, I mean, I'm going to go South Park, but this is a tough one. I feel like Persona has to win, right?
Yeah, I think Persona wins too. But there's also going to be a very vocal kind of crowd that back up Divinity Original Sin 2.
Is this an online game?
No, it's a PC game.
Oh, okay.
The original also came to PS4 and Xbox One, but it's kind of that, not isometric, but kind of that Diablo viewpoint.
Yeah.
But it's a really deep game. There are a lot of systems in that game. The way it tells the story, depending on which character you choose, like you can choose between 6 specific characters, and there's a storyline for each of them. And the characters you don't choose are characters in other character storylines. Like it's just a really complicated, but not convoluted kind of game.
Okay.
So a lot of people were really, really excited when that came out. And it's not even like a full $60 game, but it has a kind of a AAA kind of polish to it.
I'll say I'm on the website right now, and this looks like sort of your run-of-the-mill, like Korean studio developed, like rinky-dink sort of experience. Definitely looks like a Diablo clone just from the screenshots.
But the way you interact with the game is nothing like Diablo. It's more like a turn-based system, but there's mobility aspects involved. So when it's your turn, you have mobility points that you spend, and you use them to do actions like attack with your sword or cast a spell or move behind an opponent. And depending on where you are in relation to your opponent, you might do more damage. There'll be environmental things, like if they're staying on water, you can electrocute the water and they get electrocuted. Or if you make them bleed, then you can electrocute the blood, or you can freeze them to the blood. Like everything interacts. It's very deep in that aspect.
That's some Punisher shit right there. You can electrocute the blood of your enemies. Bloodtrocution.
Yeah, some Death Clock, Metalocalypse. But just from what I've heard, it just sounds like a very rich series. The original Divinity games, not Original Sin, just kind of like a remake. I don't know if like a new studio bought it, but Divinity's been around for a long time. It's like one of those Ultima era kind of games, I think.
Oh, God, okay.
So very long history, connected to D&D in a lot of ways.
Is there maybe a potential for this to garner a few more of the votes just based on the fact that it's one of the only PC games on the list?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's got a potential for it to be like a dark horse victory if the votes get split on Nier, Persona, or South Park. Nier, I really want to get at least one win out of these Game Awards, just because it is a really cool game, and I think it deserves it, but it's just been overshadowed by so many other games in its respective categories that it's kind of hard for it to find the right place. I kind of feel the same way about Persona 5. But Persona 5, I think, is a bigger fan base because Nier was also PlayStation exclusive for the console, right?
Yes, I believe so.
But I think Persona has more of a legacy based on how crazy the fan base was for its Vita release.
Right.
That I think that that adds to it. It also sold really well. I don't know how Nier Automata sold. I think it sold pretty well too, but I don't know. It's tough.
I'm going Persona.
I think it's going to go to Persona,
Yeah. All right, best fighting game. For the best game designed primarily around head-to-head combat, we've got Tekken 7, Nidhogg 2, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Injustice 2, and ARMS.
What a goofy list, right?
Yeah, it's very eclectic. It's well-rounded, though. This is a good...
I'd never really considered Nidhogg to be a fighting game, but it totally is, isn't it?
Upon first inspection, it looks like it could almost be a beat-em-up.
Well, yeah, because it has that side-scrolling kind of element, and there's the mobility involved, but it's also like screen-based, so... But the way you interact with your opponent and the method that it's one-on-one, it's definitely a fighting game. And it's really deep with how you control and have your... I haven't played Nidhogg 2, so I don't know how the different weapons kind of feel, but the original Nidhogg was very balanced in that you and your opponent can do the exact same things all the time.
Okay, I totally was getting confused as to what Nidhogg was. I remember this game now, playing this quite extensively with you guys. Yeah, the graphics, I'm looking at screenshots of the second one. I thought it was a fucking beat-em-up game. No, it's okay, Nidhogg, definitely. It's, yeah, definitely 1v1. Totally different mechanics and systems than a typical fighting game. You're running, you're gunning, you're dodging, and back and forth, and like you said, very screen-based. I imagine the second one is as good as the first one, just a little more polish. I mean, actual graphics, not just some Atari 2600 ass.
Dude, the original game was beautiful, though. It had such style, and it translated really well. You were never confused about what was happening. You're just like, oh my god, I just exploded into a pile of pixel blood. But like the second one is definitely more of that kind of gross Genesis, SNES, third-party kind of era graphics. So I can appreciate that.
Looking at this list,
it's Injustice 2.
It's got to be Injustice. Like it was the best fighting game of the year by far. It blew the first one out of the water, which sequels rarely do. And they're still getting, they just announced the Turtles DLC, which is so fucking cool.
Yo, but Tekken's getting Noctis and Geese.
Tekken was released, 14 in arcades?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so it's kind of an older game. Not a huge console fan base, I don't think. MVC was a massive disappointment on a lot of counts. And Nidhogg, I think, is just way too small. Don't even get me started on ARMS. There are people who would argue that it's shouldn't even be in a fighting game category, even though it's obviously a fighting game.
Yeah, it's clearly a fighting game.
Just the casual nature of it.
I don't know. Is Nidhogg too casual to be a fighting game? How does that mean? What does that mean for anything?
Well, ask a Tekken 7 fan or an MVC fan to, it's like, is Smash Bros. A fighting game? Well, it's obviously a fighting game, but there's a caveat to that. You look at something like Nidhogg or ARMS, and it's like, they'll want to argue with you, right?
Yeah, which I think that's just silly. It's just weird gatekeeping.
Right.
Like, is Splatoon 2 a shooter? Yeah.
Right.
You shoot. That's what you do.
But is Metroid a shooter?
Well, no.
Let's get into this. Let's get into this, Nick.
So Injustice 2 is going to be the best fighting game. I think it's cool that ARMS kind of gets the shout out, but it's been a good year for fighters, but I think next year is going to be better just on the merit of Dragon Ball FighterZ coming out, and that game looks fantastic.
That is Z. Did you like ARMS? I know we both played it a little bit, never really got too deep into it, but people played that because it was kind of the only major release. It was before Splatoon. It was obviously before some of the bigger titles like Mario, whatever, and all these third-party games that have come out. Was it just a product of the release window that people even played this game? Because I think the user base declined pretty rapidly, especially, a month later, I think Splatoon came out. So
I don't know. I like it. I don't love it, but I also kind of feel that way about Splatoon, where I like it, but I'm not like, oh man, I really have to play every day. I think that's just my relationship to online games in general.
Fair enough.
And I haven't been in a living situation where I'm playing couch co-op or a same screen multiplayer.
Yeah.
So, like, if I have Smash Bros. Right now, I'm not playing Smash Bros. On Wii U online. So that's just how I interact with multiplayer games in that aspect.
Hell yeah, man. Well, Injustice 2 from the both of us.
That easy.
Let's move on.
GG easy.
Best family game. For the best game appropriate for family play. I read that weird. Irrespective of genre or platform.
This is a rough list. This is hard.
This is a tough lift. A tough lift, Nick.
A tough lift.
A tough lift. Splatoon 2, Sonic Mania, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and Super Mario Odyssey. Yeah, fuck. That's hard.
So best Nintendo game plus Sonic Mania because we wanted to give it something, but we didn't have a category where it would fit.
Best Sonic game of 2017.
I don't know, man. Sonic Forces.
So, oh God, man. This is really tough for me. I almost need a minute to make my pick. I can justify my reasoning here, but what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, I could justify almost any of these winning. My initial thought is Mario Kart, but it's just a re-release. It's a port. So I don't know if that's going to affect people's voting. It kind of affects the way I look at it.
And Splatoon 2 is also a port.
I mean,
it's a fucking DLC pack, man.
Splatoon 2 is not on any other console, though. Mario Kart 8, what did they add?
They added a battle mode. They added some characters. No new tracks.
That's DLC.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
what's your pick? What's your personal favorite pick for best family game?
I'm trying to get to that point because I don't know. I'm trying to talk out my reasoning.
Okay,
I don't think it's Mario Rabbids, despite the Rabbids being very kid friendly and well liked.
Yeah,
because the gameplay itself is a bit more obtuse than what I would want to introduce to a kid just out of hand. But at the same time, it's not like kids are stupid.
No, not at all.
I played hard games when I was a kid.
I played harder games as a kid than I can now.
Yeah, because you have infinite patience when you're kids.
Right.
So that totally, I just sunk my own ship on that one.
Mm-hmm. I'm taking the multiplayer aspect into consideration.
I think Sonic Mania doesn't win because it's geared more towards nostalgia. Because Sonic games have never been very good. I'm going to make people mad just by saying that, but that's just my opinion, man. Whatever.
Yeah, Sonic games have never been good. The best Sonic game is still a really mediocre platformer.
Well, the best Sonic game is the game that you played when you were 10 years old. So dang it, that makes it a family game.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Odyssey, this is voter fatigue for me. It's out the window. It's a great game, great platformer. It's obviously very family friendly, but I'm just going to go by way of demonic possession. That's not a family-oriented theme.
But you get to be a Goomba.
By taking it over its very own soul. You are literally possessing it with a demon hat.
Goombas don't have souls, dude.
Well, not after you fucking rob them and
I'm waiting for that From Software game, Goomba Souls.
Right? Goomba Souls. Mario Kart 8. So if I'm just talking personally, what I loved the most this year, I enjoyed Odyssey, fine. I just started Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle last night as the time of this recording, and it's fine. So far, it's fine. I'm sure there's a lot more to get to. The soundtrack is fucking great. I've enjoyed that. But it comes down to Splatoon and Mario Kart for me. Mario Kart I put the most time into, probably. I spent hours and hours trying to triple star every cup on every difficulty, including 200cc.
Because you're sick.
I'm a bad person, and I hate myself. So I did it. And I felt very accomplished. We've talked about this on the podcast, but I spent a lot of hours trying to do that. But Splatoon 2, I think I've honestly probably had the most fun with. I couldn't even give you a number. I should probably check my Switch. But
well, you're looking at this list and going, which is your favorite?
Yeah.
But it's got to be the best family game. That's the caveat. And I think based on that purely, less about talking about kids, but talking about my parents.
Okay.
I would say if I held up every single game cover to an older individual and said, hey, do you want to play this with me? I think Mario Kart is the only one that people are like, oh yeah, I played that on the Wii.
Okay.
So I think that's just the most easily accessible family type game.
Yeah. I think my official vote's going to be Splatoon 2. Ah, man. I love Splatoon 2 the most on this list, I think. But best family game and taking into consideration the multiplayer aspect, yeah, it's Mario Kart 8 for me. But I think Splatoon 2 is going to win this category, despite it having been a port. It's either that or Mario. I don't think Mario Kart's going to be able to hold a candle to any of these just because it's literally a port, even in description.
My vote is also Mario Kart, but I think you might be wrong about the voter fatigue. I think more people are going to be just so stoked on Odyssey that I think this category might be taken by Odyssey.
Okay. So is that your official?
Yeah.
Official
I think
vote?
that's my.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
All right. Well,
I would vote for Mario Kart.
Let's move on to the next one here. Best strategy game, which is best game focused on real-time or turn-based strategy gameplay, irrespective of platform. We got XCOM 2, War of the Chosen, which I'm assuming is a DLC pack for XCOM 2.
Yeah, it's like an expansion.
Yeah. Tooth and Nail, which is a Pocket Watch Games production.
Never heard of it.
Nor have I. Total War, Warhammer 2.
Heard good things.
Yeah. Sega published. Wow.
Wow.
Halo Wars 2, and Mario Rabbids again.
This is kind of a tough one, mostly because I don't play a lot of strategy games.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia didn't make it on
what's
here.
up with that, man?
Or Fire Emblem Heroes. Pfft, bullshit. I think it's between XCOM and Mario plus Rabbids.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really cared that Halo Wars 2 came out.
No, I didn't even know it came out.
Warhammer, maybe. But I think just as far as what more people know, it's XCOM or Mario.
This is the year of Nintendo, baby. My official and my personal pick is going to Mario Rabbids.
Actually, that's a Ubisoft game.
Well, okay. All right. This has been the College Crusade podcast, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Actually,
what about you? What do you think?
based purely on the fact that's the only one on the list I've played, I would say Mario plus Rabbids. And I think that's going to be the case for a lot of the people voting as well.
Right.
Or I know it's possible that you can skip out on a vote if they encourage judges and outlets to not vote in categories that they're not experienced enough in.
Okay.
So I think that might be the case in something like this. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of the PC gaming crowd kind of rally around like Total War, Warhammer.
I have a feeling that most judges or most voters are going to look at this and they're not going to take that advice and they're going to vote for something and they're just going to vote for what they know the best, which I think gives Mario the best chance of winning. They're going to look at it and just say, oh, Mario.
Looking into the metagame. It's a bold move, Cotton.
Okay, let's move on to the best sports/racing game, a fucking category none of us care about. So it's best traditional and non-traditional sports and racing game. No Mario Kart 8. What the hell? We got Project Cars 2. We got
Seriously.
we got Pro Evolution Soccer.
No arms, that's boxing.
Right? NBA 2K18, GT Sport, Forza Motorsport 7, and FIFA 18. Who fucking gives a shit? My personal pick is 2K18, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of the racing games. Take your fucking pick.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like Project Cars.
Yeah. Whatever.
Just because there was too many people that were unhappy with Gran Turismo and Forza. Yeah, people still buy PES every year. I don't know if anyone's like on the rooftop shouting its merits. 2K18 had the VC kind of debacle, which has been, best microtransaction of 2017.
Right.
They didn't win it. FIFA, I mean, I don't know. They get the same shit with their career mode or whatever they call it with their online.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Probably Project Cars. I haven't played any of these games, so I have no merit in even commenting.
Fair enough. Best multiplayer for outstanding online multiplayer game and design, including gameplay and design, including co-op and massively multiplayer experiences, irrespective of game genre. Okay, we've got Fortnite, Call of Duty, World War II, Splatoon 2, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Destiny 2, and PUBG.
It's going to be PUBG.
100%, without a doubt. Yeah, it's going to PUBG. My personal pick, Splatoon 2. We talked about this.
What, not Destiny 2?
And, no, I haven't played enough of it. I love me some Destiny, but Splatoon 2 is my multiplayer game of 2017. What would you vote for if what was your favorite experience?
The two games on this list I've played. Splatoon.
Hell yeah.
I played Mario Kart Online, not very much. It's still a fun thing to do. Don't get me wrong. It's very easy pick up and play kind of experience.
Yeah.
But Mario Kart for me is more of a local multiplayer kind of, which is still multiplayer, but I think of it, all these are online multiplayer games, so I'm kind of thinking about it in that lens.
Right. Next category here. This is a fun one.
This is a stupid category.
Most anticipated game presented by McCafe.
Well, the funny thing is the rest of these games or these nominations are, you and I can vote on these, and that's who gets the winner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, these aren't like panel voted.
Okay.
These are audience
So
voters.
without a doubt, then Last of Us Part 2 is going to win. It's Last of Us Part 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Monster Hunter World, Marvel's Spider-Man, and God of War. Monster Hunter might have a chance.
I think Red Dead takes it.
That's right around the corner. You think that people are going to actually vote for that?
Well, Monster Hunter comes out in like January. That's literally right around the corner. Red Dead isn't coming out until spring. And also, it's going to be a multi-platform launch. So we actually have people who have Xboxes who are like, I want to get that game too. As opposed to, which Sony exclusive do you want the most?
Right. Well, fucking Xbox, Microsoft not doing any exclusives. Those chuckleheads.
Takes a long time to turn that ship. Phil Spencer's only been there for a few years.
I don't think there are enough people. I mean, Phil Spencer's the one who said we're done focusing on console exclusives. That's not old news.
That was the most recent thing he said. More recently, he was talking about acquiring studios and getting more exclusive experiences.
Okay, well,
So you're laboring under false pretenses, my good.
Not
chum.
false pretenses, but certainly old news, it seems.
Old information. Fake news.
Fake news. Red Dead, I guess, has a good chance because there are more people technically who have access to it, but I don't think there are enough people voting. They're going to be like, of all the games on the list.
I think Red Dead easily takes it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think
Rockstar hasn't made a game in 6 years.
Well, I think just based on
they're ready to see what that is.
Let's see. Based on the hype surrounding any of these games, I think Monster Hunter has a chance if...
Monster Hunter has no chance.
Think about... I mean, that's a game that, sells tens of millions of copies in, foreign markets. Yeah, but I'm saying it depends on who's voting for this, right? I don't know what the voter base looks like.
I'm assuming the Game Awards is mostly a Western audience kind of thing. I don't know if it's being simulcasted and like dubbed over and all that kind of shit.
So Nick's got Red Dead Redemption 2 for most anticipated. I'm going, my official vote is Last of Us 2, but I am looking forward most to Marvel Spider-Man, without a doubt.
Yeah, Spider-Man looks really good. I'm probably looking forward most to Monster Hunter.
Okay. Have you played any of the other Monster Hunter games?
I played 3 Ultimate for like 15 minutes.
Okay, on
your Wii U.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so. But I don't know. I just got a PS4. I feel like a few of the homies are going to be picking that up, and that's definitely a multiplayer game. So that seems like a cool kind of first experience for me.
I honestly haven't considered that, but if you and I can roll around together killing monsters, like I think I'll definitely pick this up. 100%. Hell yeah, cool. Next one. This is a tough category.
Trending gamer.
I am not on trending gamer quite yet. I'm on best independent game according to the official Game Awards list, my friend.
Well, that was way up earlier because that's not a community voted one.
Oh, did they separate the community voted ones when you're okay? Yeah,
the community voted ones are all these later ones. Well, because there's best indie game, there's also best debut indie game.
Okay. Well, best indie game for outstanding creative and technical achievement in a game made outside of the traditional publisher system. The description's a little more vague than maybe you think. Outside of the traditional publishing system. Okay. We've got Pyre.
Well, I mean, you got Cuphead on this list, and that was supported by Microsoft.
Exactly. So that's why I'm kind of like
they didn't publish the game, but they paid them for exclusivity for a undisclosed amount of time.
Right, and then use their marketing power to boost the shit out of this. So anyway, we've got Pyre, Night in the Woods, Cuphead, What Remains of Edith Finch, and Hellblade. I don't know, man. I don't know enough about any of these games. We talked quite a bit about Edith Finch and Hellblade. Cuphead's probably is what stands out the most.
Cuphead or Hellblade.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Cuphead on this one.
I think Hellblade just because of the fact that it's multi-plat.
Okay.
And it's a true indie, but if you look at it, it doesn't look like this is definitely an indie game. So I think it's notable in that respect. Maybe a dark horse contender in Pyre. A lot of people really liked Pyre. I've never liked any Supergiant games, so I don't know if I would like this one for a change, but I heard a lot of people liking the kind of conceit behind that game.
Very interesting art style. Next category is Best Student Game, awarded the best student project created at the high school or college level. So here are a bunch of games none of us has ever heard of.
Okay, I'm judging purely on the name.
And thumbnail?
No, I don't have any thumbnails.
Okay, all right. We got
just purely the name.
Okay. Meaning, Level Squared, Impulsion, Falling Sky, Hollowed, and From Light.
Well, let's see. Falling Sky is a bad name. From Light is a bad name. Hollowed is a bad name. Impulsion's a pretty good name. Level Squared's kind of cute. And Meaning is the worst name. So I'm going to go with Impulsion.
You know, that's where my mind was going. I actually like From Light, to be honest with you. Falling Sky is cheesy as they come. Hollowed is fine.
From Light.
Meaning is a little, this is a Jonathan Blow kind of up and coming, pretentious douchebag. Meaning. Okay.
Also, which of these games is most likely to be a gent band?
Impulsion.
I don't know, dude. Hollowed sounds like some cool deathcore gent.
Maybe. I mean, Falling Sky, Hollowed, From Light.
From Light is definitely like the singier kind of ones that want to have girls listen to them.
Yeah.
Same with Falling Sky.
Definitely.
Meaning is instrumental.
Fuck. I'm going Impulsion on this one. It looks kind of like a weird Portal thing. You got guns and yeah, it looks like Portal to me. Trending Gamer. For a streamer, influencer, or media member who has made an important impact on the industry this calendar year. Let me tell you something about, I don't know any of these fuckers.
I know all of them. Well, I don't know Shroud. That's the one I don't know.
Okay, we've got Steven Spohn, Mike Gershczyk, Guy Beam, Clint Lexa, and Andrea Renee. Okay, This is, I know the guy, Beam guy, this little character he does. I saw him on, I think, H3 maybe.
Dr. Disrespect, yeah. He streams a lot of PUBG.
Yeah.
That's what I know him for.
Funny enough fella, I guess. Okay, can I be a total dickhead here? Maybe I'm not being a dickhead. I think if you want to talk pandering, this is an audience award thing though. So it's like, it's either going to go to the disabled guy who is involved with able gamers, or it's going to go to the hot chick, right? Like those are the two options. Although PUBG is huge, so maybe this fucking Dr. Disrespect, maybe he takes it. I don't fucking know though.
I think it goes more for the whoever's campaigning the most. Call to action. I mean, that's how you get people winning.
So it comes down to Dr. Disrespect and Andrea Renee, because she's being backed by the Kind of Funny guys.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's going to be Andrea Renee based on, they have like daily streams, and each because you can vote once a day. So every day they're telling people go vote. Whereas if you just browse through Dr. Disrespect's Twitter feed, you don't see anything about that.
Fair enough.
Special shout out though for both Steven Spawn for all he does, and also Clint Lexa, half coordinated. He has one hand and he does speed runs. He's at AGDQ and SGDQ.
Oh wow.
Seems like a really cool guy. He talks to developers specifically to be like, give them advice on how to make their game more approachable for people with disabilities.
That's really cool. When I was in 5th grade, my best friend at the time, Jacob Fraley, he had a stroke in 5th grade, and he lost most mobility of his left side. And I remember when he got out of the hospital and made it home, he was a huge gamer. We played tons of games together. I'd go over to his house, and he always had, him and his older brothers always had the cool games that my parents wouldn't let me play,
Right.
And always the multiplayer games, because they had 4 or 5 kids, I think, in the family, 5 kids. So after he had a stroke and he couldn't use his left hand anymore, I shit you not, he would still kick my ass at video games using one hand. He would basically use the thumb and the pinky for most of it. One thumb on the joystick and a pinky hitting the buttons. And he'd contort accordingly for the rest of the face buttons or for the shoulder buttons, like Smash Bros, shooters. Like I remember playing Perfect Dark over at their house. So that always, when I see stuff like that, it always reminds me of my buddy Jacob back in the day, and how he still whooped my ass with one fucking hand.
Right. It's just a really cool thing, getting a personal story,
Yeah.
and how someone interacts with the game differently than other people do. So that's just kind of that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's when you see the stories about like the blind guy who runs Legend of Zelda or something, right?
Right.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool stuff to see in the video games. Because I've thought about this before, like what happens if I lost a limb, or what happens if I went blind, right? And there's so many things we take for granted as like relatively healthy people without any disabilities, right? We don't think how that sort of thing might impact our hobbies. A life-changing event can occur at any moment, but you never, at least for me, I never really thought about that. And one day I was just like, can you imagine losing a hand? And have you seen the gamer who, I wish I remembered his name, but I think he's got literally no limbs, and he's a competitive like league player or something. And he had this whole custom setup, and it's just like, yeah, that's really cool that, how video games can not only be like common ground for people, but that they can be so impactful and so beloved that like people with fucking no hands can still find a way to enjoy them. Like
if you're suffering from a disability like that, the least of your worries is having a hobby that works for you, but the small things add up.
100%.
So it's cool to have that capability kind of given back to you.
And it's good that there's a little more awareness for this, and that developers are taking this into consideration when they're designing their own controls for a game, but also implementing control customization, which a lot of games still don't have extensive remapping capabilities.
Right. Or even small things like colorblind mode.
Right. Definitely.
Like this is something that most people probably take for granted, but it's like, hey, can we play the game too?
Right.
So,
well, let's move on here. Best esports game.
Oh boy, I have a lot of opinions on this one.
This is tough.
He said, not sarcastically.
Right? This is tough just because it's the biggest fucking games in the world right now. League,
yeah,
Rocket League, Dota 2, Counter-Strike, and Overwatch. It's the biggest fucking games on the face of the planet.
Where's Hearthstone?
I don't know, man. My personal vote's Rocket League. I think Overwatch probably wins.
Yeah, especially since they've had kind of new developments as far as esport league kind of things from Blizzard,
right?
From on high. So I think that contributes to it. Dota 2 is always really big. I think League is bigger than Dota. Counter-Strike's always big. Yeah, they're all just big games.
Is this a community? This is not a community voted.
I'm not sure. I think esports player is, but I don't know if esports game is a community vote.
Well, I choose Rocket League any day of the week. I've put over 300 hours into that game, 350 hours or something. Absolutely love it. But I think Overwatch probably wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Best esports player presented by Omen by HP.
Oh, God. I don't know any of these
Neither
people.
do I, and I can't pronounce any of their names, so I was going to say I'm going to skip it, but I want to try and pronounce their names. Kurokai.
Oh, don't. No,
Hold
please
on.
don't.
I have to. Nick, I have to do it. I got to give the people what they want. All right?
Oh, my God. No one wants this.
Let me try not to be offensive here. We got Kurosky, Salehi Takasomi, Dota 2. We've got, oh boy, this is tough. Yihong, Ryu, Overwatch, okay. Niko Kovac, Counter-Strike. Oh God. We've got this guy, Marcelo David, Cold Zero, dude, CSGO. And we've got Lee Sang-hyuk, Faker, League of Legends. I don't fucking know, man. What's the biggest game on this list? Go with the guy with tattoos. Let's do that. CSGO guy.
Pick the tattoo, man.
He looks cool.
The Marcelo?
Yeah. Although, yeah. It's probably going to be, honestly, this is a community voted award. It's going to be probably Overwatch or League guy. It's going to be one of the Asian guys.
I'm going for Kovac because he's in FaZe Clan and I recognize that team.
Fair enough.
I also recognize Liquid, but I don't care about Dota. I don't care about Counter-Strike, but I like it more than Dota.
I'm going to say it's one of the Asian guys. If this is anything like basketball, anything like all-star voting in the NBA, the Asian markets, they're obviously massive. And so I don't know. There's probably nothing like that, but I'm just going to go with one of those guys.
You really whittled it down there.
Let's go with the Overwatch guy. Ryu Hyung. Ryu. I don't fucking know. The best esports team. Who cares? I don't give a shit.
Yeah, can we just skip it? I don't even want to read them.
Yeah, we're going to skip it.
I'm over it.
Another one that it's going to be let's talk about this because you played some of these. Best debut indie game presented by Chic Hydro, recognizing a new independent studio that released its first game in 2017. Very cool. Fan voting. Ooh boy, Cuphead's going to win. But
yeah,
the other games in the category: Slime Rancher, Mr. Shifty, Hollow Knight, Golf Story, and Cuphead. Okay, yeah, Cuphead. It's got the. I mean, obviously the Microsoft. That train's a role in there with the marketing and whatever, and
putting the spotlight on them.
Yeah. Golf Story, though.
That was really cool.
That enjoyed a very brief but sort of pretty strong dose of praise and positive reviews. And
yeah, it's kind of like a unanimous kind of, if you have a Switch and you like indie games at all, you should probably play this.
Yeah. Even
though indie game isn't a genre, but it's like, if you've played one, you kind of have a better idea of what you're going into.
Yeah.
Hollow Knight, I played an hour or two of. That's a really cool game. I'm waiting for it on Switch though, so I can't comment further on later in the game, but
yeah.
I think it's coming out in like January, February. It's supposed to be early next year. Slime Rancher is also pretty cute. I haven't played it, but I remember seeing I was watching it on Steam. I don't know what you I was like subscribed to their updates because they were in early access, but I think they're in full release now.
Okay.
But that seems like a really cool, kind of fun time waster kind of game.
Yeah, I'm going Cuphead on this one. Like Cuphead's gonna win. But shouts to Golf Story and Hollow Knight. That had a really nice aesthetic. Mr. Shifty, who's this Terry Bogart looking motherfucker? Mr.
Shifty is like I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, but they call the genre a beat 'em shmup.
Okay,
but it's like Hotline Miami, where it's the top down perspective twin stick shooter, but as a character. But this guy doesn't. I don't know if he ever uses guns, but he has that kind of teleport ability. He does the Nightcrawler thing where he bamps from one place to another.
This motherfucker doesn't have long blonde hair, but it literally just looks like a Terry Bogard fucking palette swap. That's funny. Terry Bogard from the Fatal Fury series. Little SNK shout out. King of Fighters, baby.
We're all SNK fans here.
That's funny. All right. Best Chinese game. We're going to skip that completely. Yeah?
Give me my Neo Geo Pocket Color.
Please, baby. The last category, though, is Best Chinese Game.
Oh, boy.
Okay, that's a jury pick. Monument Valley 2 is going to win. Well, it's going to beat out JX3 HD, Gumballs, Icy, and King of Glory. It's going to be Monument Valley 2.
Safe bet.
So that's it. That's the entire list, man. That's the Game Awards for 2017.
We did it. We predicted them all.
Yeah.
And we're going to be 100% right no matter what.
That's because that's what we do. I'm going to go through and have to edit this and listen carefully and make sure I write down all of our picks so that we can follow up with this post-game awards. We can talk about who won, whether we agree or disagree, and we can kind of get into some of the things they reveal, because there are going to be some reveals. There's going to be some gameplay footage for some cool shit we're looking forward to. Probably nothing as cool as that fucking Doom Gent Jam we got last year. That was so badass. Like, just bring him back every year. Just give us some fucking metal, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect, but I feel like there's probably going to be something. I think Nintendo will have a presence there. I have a feeling they're going to be showing the DLC pack for Zelda there.
Okay. Actual content, not fucking
Content and like release date.
map edition. Jesus. Yeah. Hell yeah, I'm excited. This is the 6th, correct, of December?
7th.
The 7th of December. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Thursday, and then Friday is the, not real, but it's kind of like the kickoff for PSX. They're doing a little showcase, and then Saturday and Sunday is PSX proper.
I'm looking at the voting jury. This is quite the list. I thought it would be individuals, but it's listing companies. Like, so IGN is listed, right? Like, who gets the vote from IGN? Everybody?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Wow, this is so much broader.
So it's outlets and then some like YouTube things. Like I think Easy Allies, maybe like one of the Achievement Hunters, those kind of groups.
So I'm not going to lie, if I had looked at this, I may have thought a little bit differently about some of these. Like, let me read just a couple of these. So obviously you've got the big video game guys. We've got the Giant Bomb. We've got the Kind of Funny, the IGNs, right? But we've got USA Today, Wired, Time, okay, Entertainment Weekly. Like, I don't know who from those companies are voting. Do they have a big video game presence, or is it going to be much more casual?
Time does video game reporting,
Okay,
and reviewing and like all that, everything you would expect from a video game journalist website. So same with like, oh god, like Venture Beat. They're not really video game stuff, but they do sometimes. They kind of dip their toe in there,
right?
Depending on what the context is.
Well, we'll see if that has really any effect. Some of these companies that you wouldn't normally associate with video game coverage.
Yeah, it'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that is our Game of the Year pod. That was part 2. I don't know if I'm going to mash these together yet, or if it's going to be 2 episodes. We haven't been recording for an hour, so I think I'll just mash them together.
Mash them.
Mash them, baby.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
That is super weird. What is that from? Is that like a children's nursery rhyme?
Lord of the Rings.
Also creepy. All right, man. This has been the Console Crusade podcast. Hit us up on the Twitter at console_crusade. All right. Get up in our mentions.
High energy.
Power, baby.
You just turn, is your name Jaden and you just turned Super Saiyan?
My name is Jalen, and I am a Super Saiyan.
That guy's legendary. I want to meet him. Can we have him on the podcast?
Dude, first celebrity guest.
We got a celebrity call in.
Oh,
that's
my
good.
favorite Super Saiyan. All right, guys. We'll see you. We'll catch you next time.
Good job.